Now, guys, real quick, as you know, Behind the Facade is supported by my very own Elite Property Accelerator. And it being December, I am now starting to pay attention to the January intake of that accelerator. So it's now open. If you're feeling determined to make 2025 the year that you turn your finances around, start planting the foundations to growth as an investor, then it's time to put yourself in that kind of environment. And you can do that through my accelerator. There's various things that I teach. There's a network there, and there's all of the resources that you need to do that. So I would suggest, if you're interested, please take a look at the program overview, link below in the show notes. And my next in-person event is the 1st of February, when I'll be welcoming all the new members, mingling with you guys and inviting a guest speaker to update us on some aspect of the market. So guys, take some action. I think you're going to thank yourself. Your future self will certainly thank you. And so look forward to seeing you in February, assuming that you are one of those guys who takes action. Now, back to the show. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be playing you some of the one of the podcasts that I recorded while I was away in Dubai. Now, if you've been following my social media, you will have seen that I was in Dubai a couple of weeks ago, and it was a short trip. Didn't get as much done as I would have liked to have done, but I did book a podcast studio in Dubai. It's kind of handy the way they have these studios set up, and you just walk in. Walked in, did a couple of episodes with different people, and today's episode is the first one that I recorded. And it's interesting because I was recording it in Dubai, and it was all about the Dubai property market. Dubai is a place that I've been fascinated by for many, many years. And if I go back in history, and if I think about the first time that it kind of popped up on my radar, it was back when I was in university. I was studying architecture, and I think it was fourth year, in September of fourth year, we started fourth year, and one of my friends had spent the summer away, and he had gone to Dubai, and he'd spent a couple of weeks in Dubai. And what was really interesting is, like, being architecture students, what do? You take photographs of interesting architecture. And he came back with all of these incredible photographs of, at the time, a brand new building. What it was the Burj Al Arab. Now, the Burj Al Arab is this incredible piece of architecture that is sitting outside, off the beach. It's actually built on an island that they created, which is about 1,000 feet from the beach itself. And there's a bridge across to it. And the thing looks like a big, huge sail. And when it's unmissable when you're visiting Dubai. But what's interesting about it is this place that I'd never heard about before suddenly has this incredible piece of architecture, and the height of the building is over 1,000 feet. And 1,000 feet puts it higher, taller than the Eiffel Tower, and about the same height as the Chrysler Building in New York City, which is just shy of the height of the Empire State Building. So you can see how, as a guy that was impressed by New York City skyscrapers as a teen, this would have grabbed my attention very quickly. And so a few years later, I took a flight myself over to see what all the fuss was about. And I brought my little daughter at the time. She was almost a newborn at this stage. It was January of 2005, and jumped on a flight, flew over, stayed in the Hilton Jumeirah Beach. Now, those of you who are in Dubai or who know Dubai will know that the Hilton was one of the first hotels built. And when it was built, it was this big, shiny building in the beach. Today, it is absolutely dwarfed by what's known as Marina JBR, Jumeirah Beach Residences. And if you're familiar with the marina area, when I was there in 2005, the entire marina area was under construction. There was no water. It was just sand being hollowed out so that they could eventually flood it. They were building the pier walls, and they were building these bridges over sand at the time. So to me, it was very unusual. It's like you're looking at these buildings and you're looking at these bridges crossing nothing, just crossing sand, and you're wondering, why are they building bridges and stuff? I didn't have any idea what was planned. And that is something that really, every time I visit Dubai and I go to the marina area, it takes me back to that time 20 years ago. And it's just amazing when you see it, because the scale that they've achieved is extraordinary. So we're going to talk a little bit about that with my guest today. My guest is a chap that has been living in Dubai for the past 10 years. He moved from Ireland. He went to school with me. And so I'm going to hand it over to Fintan to fill in all of the blanks. But my friend Finton Flanley, without further ado, please welcome him to the show. Finton Flanley, we're finally doing this face to face here in Dubai. I'm in town for the day and we organised this because the last time we did it, somebody forgot to press record. How are you doing?
And it wasn't me. It definitely wasn't me.
How are you doing? It's great to have you.
Yeah, great to see you over here.
Let us start. You know, the audience, they don't necessarily know who you are. I know you very well. You and I went to school together. So why don't you start with just a little...
That was about 20 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking well under these lights.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do.
Yeah, so I moved over here 9 years ago now at this stage, 2015. Work in real estate. Had worked in real estate at home in Ireland with my wife. And yeah, we moved over here with our daughter, living here for the last, as I said, 10 years now, going into our 10th year, and haven't looked back.
Wow. 10 years, it's hard to believe. I remember when you were talking about moving over here. Let's just go back. You mentioned that you started working with your wife in Ireland.
Yeah.
Why don't we go back to how all that came about?
Yeah.
You had an agency of your own?
Yeah, we, as you know, from school, went down, did accountancy and finance degree, went down the professional accountancy route. Things took a twist in life. And
as they do.
As they do, and between one thing and another, ended up with my wife opening up her own real estate agency back in 2005. It was a Remax franchise back then.
Oh, Remax, okay. Yeah,
and we never worked in real estate before. And I think that actually was a blessing because we just had our own approach.
And so it was the Celtic Tiger. There was a kind of a bit of like, oh wow, look at all the money that could be made here. Is that what kind of drove it, or what was it?
Well, I suppose we had a family business, and with that family business, part of that got rezoned. Some of that land got material contravention. There was townhouses built, and I suppose that was the catalyst. I'd always committed then to the family business up till 2003, 2004. We got married at the back end of 2003, and then we were kind of trying to feel our way out to kind of do something for ourselves, for our own future, for our future family. Mm. And all roads led to opening up our own agency. And at that stage, it was, as you said, it was boom time in Ireland.
Where were you located, the Remax?
So we were in Clane in County Kildare.
Kildare, okay.
Yeah.
And so tell us, 2005, 2006, 2007, as we know, that was boom years.
Yeah.
It was obviously doing great. You thought you had made all the right moves at that point.
Yeah.
Then tell us about what happened in 2008.
I think, fortunately, we didn't open up years before that. We opened up in October 2005. We spent weekends, late nights, getting ourselves established, getting our market share. Within our first 18 months, we had 48% market share in our general area.
Wow, 48.
And I think we always knew what hard work was. You know, we could see people there those days, people, you know, they weren't selling. They were, you know, it was just on the train, chugging along.
So they were in the right place at the right time.
Right place, right time. But I think as well as that, we weren't the liquid lunch on a Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Going to the golf course on a Friday. We were there ordering takeout in the office Friday night, doing our own photographs, doing our own marketing, doing everything ourselves. We were a start-up, so it's not like we had a lot of admin staff. We were the admin staff and everything ourselves.
Got it.
So that's stuck to us. So when the banks didn't have money to lend, we weren't afraid of hard work. You know, that's what we've been doing. And because it was our own business.
Everything you make, you get to keep, yeah.
Well, I'd like to say get to keep. Back then, it was just treading water. It was the rent, the rates, everything. Everyone got paid before yourself. What does everyone say? Pay yourself first. No. When you're starting off in business, you do what you do. And then we shifted and pivoted to mainly rentals, managing property for people, and again, things that I look back and that I did during that stage for clients, you were going out there buying the washing machine. They didn't have
doing anything. Yeah,
they didn't have the money to pay for the washing machine, but you need to keep the tenant happy. You bought it for the client. And if they paid you 6 months later, not a great business model.
No,
but it was who we were.
Yeah,
we wanted to help people in whatever we did.
So that's building great goodwill with the client.
Yeah,
for sure.
As I'm talking to you now, I'm thinking of an apartment in Sallins. One weekend, the bank was on his back, and he was down in Cork, and he didn't have money to paint the apartment, and I had a tenant to move in.
Wow.
And that weekend, Fen was, our daughter was 2 or 3, and that weekend, you're looking at the painter, you're looking at the cleaner.
Wow.
Because it was the right thing to do for him. And by Monday when I rang him, and I said, I'm just making a deposit into your account, he said, but the place wanted to be cleaned and painted. I said, it's done.
Wow.
And if he paid me 6 months later, he paid me 6 months later. But sometimes it's about doing the right thing by people.
Well, and like if the business model survives that, like you've got the goodwill that will really stick to you. So the clients are very sticky. They're not going to kind of leave to go to somebody else for
absolutely.
a slightly lower fee or something like that.
Yeah.
What happened after the crash? You mentioned when we were talking outside, somebody cut their fees and things like that.
Yeah, I think at that time, the sales were very thin on the ground, as you know. And people were desperate at that stage. And what had happened in the years before that, you had people discounting fees. So they were cutting the ass out of the market by doing this. So now when people needed to sell, it's very hard to get your fees back up.
Yeah.
Once you've gone down low. And especially when people are selling at a low price. They want
everything magnifies, yeah.
And I suppose, listen, what other people were doing, we just concentrate on what we were doing. But there probably comes a time that you realise it doesn't matter what you do. And how well you do it. You're working in an environment that is going to limit you.
Yeah.
And you can either choose to stay there and accept that as. And we'd worked through the worst part of it. You know, the light was at the end of the tunnel, was approaching.
2011 and stuff was the lowest, wasn't it? It was absolutely bottom of the market around then, wasn't it?
I suppose we had looked at that stage of, we'd seen a lot of our clients move to Australia. And we were looking after their properties here.
Right.
And we had even looked at moving to Australia at one stage. And when we did, fate, call it what you want, we were looking at Western Australia. The skilled occupation list changed at the last minute, so that was out of the way.
Right, yeah.
Then we look at South Australia, because that was the last one. And as time was passing, then you were beginning to realise all these clients that said they were going to go and come back every year, guess what?
Yeah.
Australia's a long way away.
Yeah.
They didn't come back every year. And then you saw this. For some people, we had our daughter, and she would never know who her grandparents are, our family. So thankfully, that kind of pause of the timing with changes of skilled occupation lists into different areas in Dubai or Australia allowed us time to sit back and go, okay.
This is not the move, yeah.
This is not the move. Fast forward, still wasn't happy in the environment we were working in. We fell in love with a place in... I always loved Bath and Bristol. In school, they were great rugby cities, you know. And we went over and looked around and mooched around, and Somerset was gorgeous, and there was a city called Wells. It was a tiny little city, second smallest city in the UK. And we fell in love with this place. And we went over there for 3 recce's. And on the third one, my brother-in-law came down and his wife. And one night late in a bar in Bristol, he asked, are you guys planning to retire? I was like going, no.
Retire.
And he goes, I said, no, you can't just say what you just said and leave it there.
You have to tell us what's the move.
The pin is out, the hand grenade is on the table, and it's about to explode here. So if you're going to shit all over, all over our plans, what are you thinking? I said, this is all lovely, but this is not you right now. And he said, remember you went back and you spoke to somebody in Dubai a couple of years ago when you were looking at Australia? And he said, I go over there for the races every year, Maidan and everything. He said, there's a lot happening in real estate. So we went home that week and we were a bit dejected because our plans of moving over and selling the idea to ourselves of being over there close to my wife's parents in London and really selling it.
Yeah.
That weekend, we had CVs done up for jobs because we had our own business for over 10 years. We didn't have CVs.
Yeah.
And my wife threw CVs out online. She's the action person in our family, okay?
Right.
And Saturday night came, and she said, "Oh, I put out a few CVs this week, and we've got a couple of online interviews with recruiters next week." And on Saturday night, I was looking it up, and it was a Six Nations weekend. Ireland were playing England on the Sunday. I don't miss those matches for anything. And then there was this property exhibition for Dubai that weekend in Olympia.
Okay.
Saturday night, front of the fire, Sunday's planned for the rugby, and I'm like going,
are we going to do this? Yeah.
I book a flight, go over, and came home that night, and my wife said, "How'd you get on?" And I had a pull-on bag, and I opened it up, and there was brochures and floor plans and payment plans, and all of a sudden my passion for real estate was ignited. I walked into the exhibition hall in Olympia, and it was like Charlie walking into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Yeah. Eyes were lit up, and I was like, boom.
Yeah.
And that was the catalyst to start exploring a little bit more. And here now, 9.5 years later, I've managed to cut out a career in the Dubai real estate market here. Wife and daughter, the three of us have a beautiful life. It's a normal life. It's not the bling. It's not the big cars and the big buildings and Burj Khalifa. I get up in the morning, I bring her to school, I go to work, I come home, I coach her rugby team, and we have a very normal life like I would have at home. But Dubai has opened up so many opportunities to us as a family. I'm an advocate of it for sure.
Well, 10 years is a kind of pretty much a statement of support.
Yeah, listen, it was that typical thing. Like a lot of people come over here, a lot of Irish over here. We'll go over there for a couple of years and see how we get on. Mm-hmm. And like that.
So when was that now? If this is 10 years, so you're around 14, 13, 14?
2015.
15, all right,
yeah.
Okay. It's funny because I did a big project in Spain in 2008, and timing could have been better. 2009, it all came crashing down. 2010, I can remember I was trying to tread water, to use your term, treading water, trying to keep the Spanish project going. And I remember a friend of mine was in London, and he was going to the Dubai property exhibition. And he said, "Gavin, you should come to this." So I jumped on a flight from Malaga to London, and I was there, and he came out of this and he said, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Yeah, it seems like a lot going on there." And he goes, I've just given in my landlord notice. We're moving to Dubai." And just like that, he said it. And I remember thinking, whoa, he's like going all in.
Yeah.
Just like that after the property conference. And I wasn't ready to do that because I had this big commitment. I had this project going on. But he moved there, and I started commuting from Spain to Dubai to kind of see how to help him with what he was doing. And I can remember just like he was up and running very quickly. But it was 2010, 11. Like it was on its knees. And it's funny, we've just been walking around the downtown area, and I used to stay in the Al Manzil Hotel there, which is right under the Burj Khalifa. It's changed so much now. There's towers everywhere and stuff. It's an amazing place. It's like I get a lot of energy being in this city.
You know, when we drive down here, sometimes like to downtown, my wife would always say, pinch yourself moment, that when you're driving down to downtown, it's like driving to Gotham City.
Yeah.
You're going down there at night time, the lighting and everything.
It's amazing.
And you're like going, how does a boy from Dublin end up coming over here and doing okay, right? But the time that you came over to now, Dubai is a much better and different place. Okay?
Well, I'll go back even further. When I first came to Dubai for the very, very first time, was actually my daughter had just been born, and she was a couple of months old, and my wife and we flew there. She's now 20, so this'll tell you.
Yeah.
So I think it was probably 2000, it was Christmas of 2004.
Yeah.
And the whole Dubai, Jumeirah Beach residence, JBR, all that, none of that. They had built the towers, but they were under construction, but the whole marina area was all just sand, and they were digging the pier walls and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's incredible to have seen it like that at the time. And when I go down there now, my mind is just blown at just the scale of it.
Listen, what they've done here, and in that timeline as well, Dad came over here for his 60th birthday in 2004 as well.
Okay.
And Palm, to go out into the Palm when they were selling the project, they were getting the boat across.
Yeah,
okay?
sand and everything.
And it was, the dredging was being done and it was all coming together. And I was with my team up in Emirates Terrace the other day, and we were looking out a window. I said, guys, come over here. And some guys have been here a few years, some guys are new to Dubai. And I'm going, where we're standing now and everything around us, 20 years did not exist.
Yeah.
And it's the visionary leaders, it's the finance, but it's also the willingness to be the best. The action. It isn't just a vision without an action. It's just a fanciful idea.
Yeah, exactly. Like dreams stay dreams unless you take action, and that's where I think isn't it Mohammed bin Salman was the crown prince and for years, and then stepped into the kind of the role. But he's had this incredible vision, because this was really an oil economy right up until they decided the oil is running out and we got to turn this into some sort of a tourist mecca. Which is what they've achieved. So
I think, if you look on a map of the 7 Emirates, Abu Dhabi is the real wealth in terms of natural resources and oil. Dubai never had that. So it had to say, well, what next?
Yeah. And
the concept of, I remember when I arrived here and I went onto the Palm for the first time, I was like going, who thought of this?
Yeah.
I said, whoever thought about doing it? Who thought that this was actually possible to actually
build it in the first place
and make this happen? And when you drive down there, and you see the residents living there, and the hotels and the tourism. Just the first thing when I came over here in 2015, on the recommendation of a lady that I ended up working for, Zara and Louise, for 6 years, she said, "Come over here for a week with your wife, without your daughter." Now, we'd never left Fen alone for a weekend. She was just turned 5. And she was very kind to us that day, and she drove us around Dubai after we had lunch. And we went into the middle of the desert to Al Qudra, and there was no houses there. But the infrastructure was laid.
Yeah.
And what struck me coming away, there's investment in here in the future.
Yeah.
They have now got the 611, the Emirates motorway. It's a 6-lane both directions. There was no houses on it. That was built and operational 10 years ago. Now today, you see communities in there being built, the schools being built, but there was always this forward planning. And I liken this to when we opened up our office in Clane. In Sallins, it was a commuting. Sallins was like a suburb of Dublin on the train line. There was going to be a ring road built around it this way and a ring road this way, and the county development plan, blah, blah, blah. So in 2005, we opened up. This plan was being formulated. We would do viewings in the house in Sallins, and at peak times the traffic was bad, and we'd talk about that development plan. The week before we boarded a flight to move here in 2015, the local Chamber of Commerce had an open letter in the Irish Independent imploring the government and the minister to action this. The first time I drove on that road was the year after COVID, when I went back for the first time. So, and I know it's different.
Decade, yeah.
You've got local politics that stifle progress. We don't have local policy.
Here.
There's a government here, and it is for the betterment of all. And they take action, and they take it swiftly.
Yeah.
And do they get things right? Not necessarily always. You go back to the noughties and that crash. There wasn't the regulatory framework to support it. Now today,
that's all fixed.
That's all fixed. Developers have to have a project number. It has to be approved. They have to have 30% cash in an escrow account, or they have to have 30% of the building already constructed. So everything today now is all and seriously transparent. The transparency here. We've got the Irish property price register at home.
Yeah.
And it is very vague in terms of the detail. In here, we can check to see what unit number, what view, what floor, what view, all the detail that you can need to know as an investor to make an informed decision. So it's a data-driven environment here.
Right.
Which, again, that's what investors want.
Tell us, we're going to get into the market now, because I know there's people listening that will be, curious about what's it like to invest in Dubai. And you've mentioned some of the benefits there. I can remember when I first came to Dubai thinking, I wouldn't invest here. And the reason was, for some of the reasons you mentioned, there was no regulation, but also they were able to build stuff so easily that you would feel, I just felt like the demand could be evaporated. You could actually have oversupply happen very quickly, and suddenly there would be no demand. So that was one of the concerns I had. But you mentioned during COVID, obviously, there was a lot of pilots losing their jobs and all sorts of stuff was going on.
Aviation was a bad place.
Yeah, like anything that involved travel and stuff like that was going to be on its knees, and restaurants were closing and everything like that. Yeah. So that was probably the lowest point in the market. And you mentioned a client of yours or somebody was looking at selling at one stage, and you convinced them not to. What's the market done in those years? Like, it's now 4 years on since COVID.
So if we look at freehold was introduced in the early noughties here, and that was really the opening of the gates for foreign investment. And again, we've got to look at where the rest of the world was. Banks were giving away money they were just pushing cash.
110% mortgages, as we were saying earlier, yeah.
And in that, nobody had a value of money. And again, Gordon Gekko, greed is good. People got caught up. And in Ireland, it was the same. People were buying properties in
flip.
Bulgaria. Like, if you didn't have a second property in Ireland, a holiday home somewhere in Ireland, or a property overseas, or a good set of decking. Do you remember the decking days? The queues outside for the people overnight. There was something wrong with you.
Yeah, you were missing the trick.
Yeah. And I suppose over here now, from then, where what was the price of something? Back then, it was there would be a lunch. People would queue up. You could get paid for your place in the queue and make money. You could go inside.
Sub-sales.
You could go inside, buy a property, and on the way out, somebody would buy it from you. That guy that night could buy that contract. The same property could sell 3 times within 24, 48 hours. And what was it?
Speculation.
Okay.
Pure and simple, yeah.
And when you look back, even at those prices to where they are today, though, the person who bought that for the 3rd time on that day has done very, very well. But what you've gone through is you've gone through a couple of cycles. And during the cycles, Dubai Land Department have brought in regulation. They've brought in a lot of transparency for people to actually see what the prices are. The supply is coming in at the moment, but Dubai, while the rest of the world was trying to figure its way through COVID, at the next press conference of the numbers of how many were tested positive and what blah, blah, blah.
How many had died and all this,
Dubai had already sown the seeds by landing Expo 2020.
I remember that, yeah. I remember when they landed that.
And that was coming to 2020. They postponed it for 12 months because of COVID. But in that time, they were also announcing about a vision for 2040. And the vision for 2040, without going into it in detail now, it's definitely worth a read.
So they're going to double the size of the city again, basically.
Yeah, the population has just broken the 3.8 barrier, a 3.8 million barrier for the first time.
Wow.
They want to get this to 5.8. Year on year, the population has grown.
2 million in 20 years.
And it's even going to be higher. It's grown 4.6% in the last year on year so far. But you go back to 2014 to 2024, and you look at what was in Dubai. Back then, you were getting a 2-year visa. Now you can get a 10-year golden visa, an investor visa, a retirement visa.
Right, yeah.
Back then, foreign ownership, 100% ownership, wasn't allowed. Now today it is.
Yeah.
So
I remember you had to have a partner and all that kind of stuff. Local guy had to sign for 51%.
51%, exactly. You give a power of attorney, they won't have any involvement in the running of the business. But if you said to somebody there 10 years ago that there'd be a 10-year golden visa, or that you could have 100% foreign ownership of a company, people would have looked at you like 10 heads. But such is the fluidity and such is the desire to be the number one
in the world.
The world. And this is coming down to financial services. In the last number of years, they've enforced compliance. If you're a good time to be a compliance officer, because all the companies are bringing them in. Dubai has recently got off the grey list. You look at the funds coming into Abu Dhabi and Dubai now. There's a lot of movement coming in here. There's a lot of family offices coming here. If we were to be here in 10 years' time, please God that we will be, and that Dubai is now being talked about as a leading financial hub in the world. I'm going to see that. I'll put my money on the table now that will happen. A tech hub, another Silicon Valley, a centre for AI innovation.
Hub, yeah.
And when you go out to Expo City, which is the prize child of Dubai, where they've invested money, and Al Maktoum Airport is going to be taking over from DXB Airport in the same timeline.
Wow.
If you're here and you have time, go out to Expo City. Do you remember the Jetsons?
Yes.
Jetsons, when we were growing up, there was this cartoon of people with hoverboards and all this kind of stuff that we said was like a space age type thing. Expo City is like this. And it's going to be no traffic. It's all about sustainability, easy mobility. There's a minister for happiness here, right? And it's all about what makes people happy. Being able to come out of their home, have all their amenities on their doorstep, be able to walk to work, not get stuck in traffic. At the moment, the traffic is bad. But I see that as a positive because of the influx of people moving here.
Tell me this. One of the things that I've heard over the years about, you got people that love Dubai, and then you get people that swear against it, and they say it's soulless. How would you defend that?
Come down to me on Saturday morning or tomorrow night out the rugby sevens and see us playing our rugby tournaments.
You and and all your kids and that.
So we're with the Dubai Sharks. We've got a very healthy rugby scene over here because of Dubai Sevens as well. Yeah. But down there you've got even the Dubai Irish Football Club. A lot of people judge Dubai because they've never gone past Sheikh Zayed Road.
Yeah. So
they come from DXB Airport to Burj Khalifa and downtown. They go to the Palm. They go to the Marina. And yes, this is man-made. Okay, there was nothing there 20 years ago, but it's impressive.
It is impressive, yeah.
Take a trip infield and see some of the communities that people are living in. And people like myself, my wife, my daughter, we've come here for a better life. Flash cars don't impress me. I don't care about the watch I wear. And there's so many people over here that are like that. There are people, though, that will get sucked in. And Dubai is tax-free. So Dubai does not want every tax-free dirham earned to leave the country.
Yeah, they want to keep it.
So there's going to be temptation left, right and centre. And where they can say it's soulless, they're looking in the wrong places. Honestly, it is very dynamic. It has been in the past more transient where people come and go. So long-term relationships may not have been something that people will get. But the side that we see is a very different side. But I think you need to come here.
As a resident.
And see that. And there are people here that will come here and they'll get sucked in by the beach clubs and the fast cars and
there's
the
a
boat
glamour.
parties.
There's a glamour about
all
it,
of that
for
side.
sure, yeah.
And that lifestyle, it takes money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are living a champagne lifestyle on a beer budget, and they'll be the people that will leave with their tails between their legs. And they'll have wasted an opportunity that potentially, maybe I'm being harsh, maybe not, but I've seen both sides of it.
Yeah, I get you. Interesting. And let's talk about if you are looking at, first of all, there's two different scenarios. You're either coming here thinking about moving here as a resident, or you're coming here and you're thinking about it as an investor. Let's start with as a resident. What advice would you give someone who was thinking of moving here and thinking about buying a property? Like, what advice would you be giving them?
So the first thing I'd say is the same advice that was given to us 9.5 years ago. You got to come over here and you got to step away from staying in the hotel and thinking that's the life. You got to maybe do Airbnb, short-term rentals is a very popular thing here. And I'd say rent somewhere within a community you can see yourself living in. That gives you a better understanding of waking up in the morning, going visiting the schools if you've got children, but spend that time not down at the beach, not down in the nice restaurants.
Not like
just
it's a holiday,
going into your local store, getting an idea of what the cost of living is here. And I think when people see that, it gives them a better feel for it. I think if you're coming over in your first year, a lot of people want to jump in straight away and they want to buy a property. Sometimes it's better just say, find your feet.
Rent for a bit.
This might not be for you. Maybe you don't have that family network that you need at home. Some people will miss that. And if that's the case, that's the expat life. And the expat life, whether it's Dubai or Singapore or wherever, may not be for you.
Yeah,
But I'd say the first thing is come over here, and even in that period of time, find your feet, rent a place for maybe 6 months, 12 months, whatever that might be, and allows you then to explore the different communities, where the schools are, the traffic, before taking the plunge.
And talk about schools. You've got lots of different school options, lots of different, like you've got American schools, UK kind of schools and things
German,
like that.
French, Swiss.
So no matter what.
Yeah.
And are they expensive? I've heard that they are. But,
okay.
But then what are we comparing it against?
Yeah, so comparing it, okay. I've had friends come over and we say we pay for the education and what the fees are per year. It could be, let me work it back very quickly, €14,000. Okay,
so that is high in the scheme of things if you're comparing to Ireland, yeah.
So it's mid. So compared to Ireland, but I'm having a choice of what school. I'm not being told you're in this catchment area and you have to go to this school. My child is in a class where she's with different nationalities, and I can do mentality. I'm paying for this, but I don't pay tax. I don't have income tax. So if you were to say what somebody pays for private education at home in Ireland, I don't know what the fees are, but after tax. Okay.
Yeah, of course. You see, that's the thing. I was just thinking about like the school you and I went to now would probably be about half that, but we have to pay income tax. So it's about the same when you take into consideration.
So we're up. Fen is in school, starts at 7:30. She's finished up 3:20.
So it's an early start.
Yeah, over here is an early start, and when she's on some of the squads, she's in the school for 6:30.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow, it's right.
Different.
School runs fun that much. And then on the same Tuesday night, we're doing our rugby training with the Dubai Sharks. So Tuesdays are a long day for us.
Wow. Yeah. And in terms of, how often would you go home and visit, family and things like that? I mean, I did the flight yesterday, so it's an 8-hour flight.
Yeah.
It's not too bad, but in terms of like you and your...
I would try and get back twice a year.
And
what I get over here is people come to visit us. And what you miss about home what you miss about home is people. It's not the weather, I can tell you that. Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
It's not the grey skies. And even in the heat of the summer over here, looking out at a blue sky, even though it's 50 degrees and you're not going to be outside that much, I can tell you, blue skies, it does a lot for somebody's uplift and mentality. Okay.
Yeah, I can buy that for sure.
So in our first years when we came over here, we were averaging between 30 and 40 people coming and staying with us.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And a good friend of ours had actually bought his flight to visit us before we bought our flight to actually leave Ireland in the first place. And they come every year with their kids, and there's always something new for them to do. They come over here and they're like, oh, wow.
It is incredible when you look at all the different things. I was looking at the latest, the Dubai Deep thing, is it? With the diving centre that has like the deepest. Yeah. It's incredible. Tell us if somebody was thinking of investing now in Dubai.
Yeah.
Like I've heard that the market has risen a lot in the last couple of years, and the various things contributing to that. Post-COVID, people can work remotely, so lifestyle choices have changed as well. People kind of like the idea of living somewhere sunny, and maybe they still have the connection with Northern Europe if that's where their kind of business is and things like that. What have you seen as an investor? What would you say is now the right time to invest, or would you say it's the top of the market, or would you say it's?
So we've had this growth over since post-COVID. You're at the bottom of the market. There was this drop off the cliff and this hockey stick rebound. And I think for people that are investing now, you look and say, why are they investing? And you look at the environment. They like real estate as an asset class. Maybe they don't want to diversify in their currency risk. They don't want to have everything in the pound or the euro. They wanted to have it in the dollar. And the dirham is pegged to the dollar.
Yeah.
So I'll start with why it is that you're looking to invest. Over here, there's a lot of new developers coming into the market. We have developers from Canada, States, UK, Lithuania, Switzerland,
so it's like
Germany,
a global market, basically.
Portugal. And when you look to see why they're coming in here, it's because they're taking feedback from their clients in their home countries of where they're investing. So they want to slice off the action. So I think right now, you got to be more careful because you've had this capital uplift. And again, it's like basic economics, supply and demand. the population growth is going to absorb the supply. But we're going to go through different cycles at different times. And the properties that will always have the occupancy are the best quality. And the locations, like there's so, as you know, there's so many different factors. But a lot of people know over here that they're going to get a 7 to 8% net return. That's not achievable at home.
Yeah. Well, depending on where.
Yeah. So, and
in Dublin, you wouldn't get that.
Yeah. So short-term rentals, you could add an extra 1 to 2% on top of that return. And because here is a destination for tourism, for business, people coming in and out doing business, they don't want the hotel, they want the apartment. People that are coming to Dubai starting off, the first month they can't rent a property over here until they have their Emirates ID. So they need a short-term, like we did. We had a short-term rental situation for 5-6 weeks until we had our paperwork in order before we could rent a place for a year. So there's segments of the market that are going to continue to increase, get good capital gain. There's a shortage of townhouse and villas. We look at the people that are moving to Dubai and the demographic that's moving here.
They want villa in Dubai.
They want to be in a gated community, and these gated communities are typically close to the schools, and they give them this lifestyle. So I always start with the individual, and I go back to them and say, what is it you're looking to achieve? And maybe this is the right option for them, and maybe it isn't. But the one thing that a lot of people favour over here, where they don't get it in other places in the world, is really good payment plans.
So how do you buy? What do you put down in terms of a payment?
Typically, you're looking at the market. You've got the biggest developer in Dubai, Emaar. You'd pay 80% during construction and 20% on handover. Then you'd have smaller mid-sized developers. They might be 50-60% during construction, and then the balance on handover. Then you've got some developers there that have been in the market a long time, and their formula has been a 1% per month payment plan. So you still pay your 50 or 60% during construction, but then you're paying 1% per month post handover. So your cash on cash return is going to be fantastic, and your tenant will end up paying a nice chunk of the balance due to the developer once you've got your keys.
But in terms of one of the issues with the payment plan is that you can't buy with a mortgage because you don't have ownership till the end, and so you're required to finance, say, up to 50% of the purchase price.
Yeah.
So you'd have to have the cash to be able to do that.
Yeah, but when that cash is maybe spread over 3 years. So if you're buying a mortgage here as a resident, you can get a loan of up to 80% loan to value.
Yeah.
If you're a non-resident, it's 50%.
Okay. So
or
you have to come
with
up with
additional
anyway.
paperwork, you're going to have 60%.
Got it.
But this payment plan allows people to plan over maybe 3 years to get to that 60% mark.
Got it.
Then they can get the 40% as a non-res. So the banks will give a mortgage once the building completion certificate is issued, the BCC, and that's when the banks will lend to make that final payment to the developer. So, a lot of people over here like those payment plans because they don't. If they were buying a ready property today, as a resident, they have to have 20%
down. Yeah.
The Dubai Land Department, regardless of the value of the property, is 4%. So that's your equivalent of stamp duty.
Right.
So if somebody's buying today and they're paying an agency fee, they need to have 26 to 27%. So if they've got that money, they can go to a developer and maybe what their budget is today caps them in an older building compared to the post-COVID buildings that are being designed here with paddle court, swimming pool, gym, co-working spaces, a host of amenities. And it's those buildings that will be the ones that will have the best occupancy over 10 years. It'll be those buildings that will have the exit strategy because they're built geared towards now an end user. Somebody that's going to buy that, this is my home, and that person in 10 years' time will only be putting 20% down, and the bank will give the other 80.
Interesting. So, thumbs up for Dubai as far as you're concerned.
Listen, I'm not. We call this home now. We've bought our home here. We're looking at making some investments here now, and very shortly. I've been a landlord in Ireland. It's not fun.
That's for sure.
A rent pressure zone is the most ludicrous thing. I think I spoke before.
Yeah.
That for some people to consider leaving their property vacant,
rather than locked in.
Locked in, because over the 8 years, over a 10-year period, they'll be better off leaving it vacant for 2 years, adding to not helping out the situation, but for 8 years thereafter, renting it at the market rate. So the environment over here for a landlord is typically very favourable. People don't pay monthly.
You pay four checks, is it?
Well, depending on the property. Some properties people will pay one check in advance for a year. We've seen people coming in here to secure a property, take a 2-year lease, and they'll pay one check for 2 years in advance.
Wow.
Now, if you're getting that money
so it's
in
15%
advance,
up or something like that.
you can put that on deposit account and be making money on the rental money that you've got in advance. So there's a second side to that gain.
Yeah, yeah.
As a landlord over here, there will be properties are typically rented unfurnished. Now, when I say unfurnished, I mean not a light bulb, not a curtain pole.
Not even a kitchen sink or whatever, yeah.
You go in there, the sink is there. Not that bad.
Okay, yeah.
But the cooker, oven, hob, dishwasher, washing machine.
You have to go and buy all that.
You'd have to get yourself. So from a landlord's point of view, I remember the calls. They've got a problem, there's a hairpin in the dishwasher, get the landlord to fix it, and you realise that they've put coins in their pocket, they've blocked up the machine. Landlords don't have to deal with that here. In their tenancy contract, it's a standard that there's a minimum minor threshold for who's responsible.
Okay.
So anything less than maybe for an apartment, 500 dirhams, which is €125, about just over £100, that would be the tenant's responsibility. So all those little small niggly things, that there's a leaky tap, there's this, that and the other.
Yeah, toilet won't flush. You got to get that sorted.
That's the tenant's responsibility.
Okay.
So it removes a lot of those little niggly headaches that just cause friction between a landlord and tenant. I asked you to do this, come get somebody in, blah, blah, blah. The environment over here is very much geared towards attracting landlords, but there's also a protection in place with the RERA, which is the Real Estate Regulatory Authority. Try saying that for the few drinks. That they can't just jump up the rent to the market rate. But there is the rear rent calculator allowing you that if the market rent is up to 10% higher than what you're paying, there's no increase. If it's between 10 and 20, it's 5%. If it's between 20 and 30, 10%. So there is an environment there of a sliding scale that moves, rather than this thing at home at the moment of
you're locked in.
You're locked in
2%
at a COVID rent at 2%, and that's where you'll stay.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to go for. For anyone who wants to connect with you, what's the best way to find details?
Well, if they want to drop you a message, because they might have your details already, I work with Allsop and Allsop. Carl and Lewis set this up over 16 years ago. Two lads from Coventry came over here, and we have probably the biggest agency in Dubai. We have 3 floors in one of our office buildings in Motor City, another one Jumeirah Golf Estates. We provide the full life cycle, from buying off plan, mortgage, property management, lettings, resales. I mean,
the full gamut.
Yeah.
And apartments, homes, villas, whatever it is, you do them all.
Absolutely. There's nothing too small and nothing too big. We've just opened up a private office as well, so we're getting a lot of international sports people and celebrities now moving over this neck of the woods. But our bread and butter is that person buying their first home, that family in the gated communities, the townhouse, the villas. That's where most of our transactions take place. And there's between 500 and 600 people working in the company. It's big, so we cover communities across Dubai. We do it myself. I head up the off-plan team, and we've just had our best month in October. And in that month we sold 19 different projects across Dubai. We have agency agreements with about 150, but our job out of that 150, there's a lot of them that are just a no-go for various reasons. But if we don't know what's happening in the market, we can't advise a client against it or let them know what to be wary of. So like anything, if anyone's thinking about moving to Dubai, speak to somebody on the ground who will give you the right information. If you're thinking about investing, don't just jump on to the first thing you see as you come through the airport or in the mall.
Or those property conferences, for an example.
Yeah. And I think what you just got to do is try and find somebody there that you know has the knowledge, but more so has your interests at heart. That isn't just going to try and sell you...
Flog you the first thing.
First thing that comes their way. And there's good opportunity, but if you don't do that bit in your due diligence and listen to who you're talking to at the start,
you make a mistake. It's easy.
Let the buyer beware.
Yeah. Fintan, thanks so much for coming in today.
Great to see you.
Great to see you in person. It's not often that we get to do it in a nice studio like this.
Yeah, superb.
So brilliant. Great. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Fintan. I've left links down below in the show notes to his, to get in contact with him. Should you be interested, definitely reach out. He's a solid bloke, and I have a lot of time for Fintan. So do that. If you are thinking about investing and you just want to kind of polish up your skills and your knowledge and what's kind of missing in terms of your education or your skill set, then think about my Accelerator. Now, the Accelerator is, we'll say a slightly more advanced version than if you were a beginner. And if you're a beginner, bear in mind that I am bringing out I released it a couple of years ago, but I'm in the process of updating it, my Foundations course. And the Foundations course is more for complete beginners, starting out, just want the basics. And if that's what you're looking for, then stay tuned and I'll be letting you know more. But for those of you who already feel comfortable, who've bought property in the past and are looking to assemble a portfolio, perhaps you're a contractor and you've got some knowledge on how to build, but you just want to sort of polish up your banking skills and your strategy and things like that, then the Accelerator is for you. So guys, link in the show notes below to the program overview. Watch that video. And then if you fill out the questionnaire, it takes you through a process, asks you a few questions, and then it gives you a booking so that you can actually book a time with me. So hope to see you soon and look forward to meeting you guys who join in January.